Well, let's shift now to the White House on this Friday morning. A live look in Washington, D.C., where we continue to follow our breaking news. U.S. President Donald Trump abruptly terminating all trade negotiations with Canada over an anti-tariff ad that's been airing on most major networks in the United States. It was paid for by the province of Ontario. Here is a bit of that ad.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
The Ontario government paying $75 million for the ad that features the voice of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan from a radio address in May of 1987. Now, the decision by Trump to end trade talks with Canada abruptly coming just before midnight last night. I want to bring in now William Pellerin, who is an international trade lawyer with Macmillan LLP. William, thanks for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
It's certainly a setback, I think, to what there was a lot of optimism about the possibility of seeing some sort of sectoral tariff deal that was going to come between Canada and the U.S., maybe at this APEC summit that both Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump are heading to here in the coming hours. What was your reaction to seeing this news this morning, that Donald Trump terminating the trade talks so far with Canada?
Absolutely. Really disappointing news, especially for the Canadian steel and aluminum industry in particular, who are really counting on some form of short-term relief. I know we were not going to get to a broad-scale deal with the United States that had been signaled quite clearly from the Prime Minister, but certainly a lot of hope and optimism towards a deal, perhaps, as you mentioned, at the APEC summit in South Korea next week. So this is quite a bit of a setback, and I think illustrates quite well the complexities of dealing with the U.S. administration, where things can change very quickly and things can change overnight.
I know you mostly deal with trade clearly, but it's been interesting what Donald Trump was saying in particular, that he's trying to claim that this ad is somehow going to affect the U.S. Supreme Court's decision as they get set to rule on the legality of his tariffs. Do you have any input on that? Do you see, is that just the U.S. president once again going off on one of his tangents to talk about something that is not related at all, or is there any possibility that there is some truth to it?
I don't personally see that. I can't picture exactly what the president is getting at in that situation. I think the U.S. Supreme Court can weigh the legalities of the argument and are unlikely to be swayed by radio ads quoting Ronald Reagan. But nonetheless, I think it stands that this is a devastating blow right now to the Canadian steel and aluminum industry, and frankly, to the Canadian economy quite broadly, right? I mean, we're seeing really a wave of incoming, like a layoff tsunami in many sectors right now amongst our clients, and any bit of relief would have been certainly much welcome, whether in steel or other sectors as well, such as wood products.
And I think that was part of an earlier conversation too, when we talked about the fact that it felt like it was really close, and even if there wasn't a complete trade deal, that more of what's expected next year, right? The renegotiation of CUSMA leading up to that some relief would have been good. Do you believe, how hard is it going to be to repair this, to possibly see some relief before that actual renegotiation happens next year?
Yeah, I think there's some hope, right? I mean, this is a little bit of a quick reaction overnight. Canada's generally been quite good at getting ahead of some of the U.S. asks. This doesn't seem like a particularly onerous issue to get over. I don't know if it's about, holding back some of the advertising for a little bit in order to get the deal across the finish line, whether that's something that the province of Ontario would be looking at and the federal government looking at. Nonetheless, I think this might not be, a major deal breaker that lasts for weeks. Maybe it's something that can be overcome.
William Pellerin, an international trade lawyer with Macmillan LLP. Thanks for your time this morning, William.
My pleasure.